neither arising nor ceasing, neither permanent nor annihilated, neither one nor different, neither coming nor going. To the one who taught dependent origination and skillfully eliminated all conceptual fabrications, I prostrate to the Buddha, the supreme among all teachers. From the sacred realm of Mount Wutai, may Manjushri's blessings enter my heart. I pray to Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche and seek blessings for realization through mind transmission, to liberate all boundless sentient beings. Please everyone generate supreme and excellent bodhicitta. Now will teach the words of my perfect teacher. In the words of my perfect teacher, we're currently explaining birth, aging, sickness, and death. The suffering of birth has been completed. Now we'll explain the second topic, the suffering of aging. The affairs of samsara have no substantial essence. Nothing in samsara has any real substance, and there's never a time when it comes to completion. While eating, drinking, and enjoying life, unknowingly, one already experiences the suffering of aging. In this world, people unknowingly indulge in eating, drinking, and entertainment, and eventually become elderly. Although people all envy the beautiful and fulfilling years of youth, indeed, aging arrives easily when we least expect it. Master Aryadeva's 400 stanzas on the middle way states, "After youth has faded away, it appears again before us. Though dwelling in this world, it appears like a race." This is very well said. Everyone indeed has had beautiful youth, but after youth fades away, one becomes in a very unpleasant state of aging. Aging and youth in this world are actually like a race, appearing on everyone's body. Some people feel particularly sad and suffer greatly about old age, always lacking the courage to face it. This is caused by not studying Buddhism. Those who have some understanding of the Buddhist principles of birth, aging, sickness, and death, when they reach death's door or arrive at old age, will not have worry or great sadness in their hearts. Therefore, I think people in big cities nowadays have extremely empty thoughts and definitely need the nourishment of the Dharma. Otherwise, they cannot accept any aspect of life. The basic natural law, birth, aging, sickness, and death, is like the 4 seasons of spring, summer, autumn, and winter, a pattern that must appear in every person's life. But when this pattern appears, particularly ignorant people cannot face it. I think everyone should have the understanding that impermanence will always come. Verses for Advising the World says, no matter how much happiness you have, impermanence will eventually come, only through the direct path of cultivation, mindfully reciting Amitabha Buddha. No matter how happy our lives are, impermanence will certainly come. At this time, what is most useful and beneficial is practicing the Dharma, completing one's life through methods such as reciting Amitabha Buddha. In this way, one has a destination in life and substantial meaning. Therefore, everyone here indeed has the responsibility to spread the spirit and teachings of Buddhism in different circles. Different people have different capacities for acceptance, so we should propagate the Dharma through various methods before them. It's not necessary to make them take refuge or insist on formal ceremonies. People who have studied Buddhism face aging very calmly when it appears. This is a very normal phenomenon, and they even feel happy. I'm old now. Especially some practitioners and monastics feel this way. Am I old now? After getting old, greed, anger, and ignorance might be gone. Throughout my life, I maintained pure precepts and perfected my practice. In the end, I will definitely be reborn in the Pure Land of Great Bliss. The sutras also teach this way. Therefore, for people with spiritual realization, birth, aging, sickness, and death are merely a path of joy. We should understand it this way. But if you lack realization, such people indeed need the Dharma. Sometimes I think, for example, non-Buddhist people, even if their children buy them houses or find them caregivers with abundant food and drink, when they see their 4 elements gradually weakening day by day, they feel extremely painful in their hearts. Elderly people especially need the Dharma. If they have a spiritual refuge, whether through reciting Buddha's name or basically understanding Buddhist teachings, they know that even if external material conditions are not sufficient, their hearts are happy and joyful, always wearing smiles on their faces. For them, this far exceeds monetary offerings. Therefore, I think it's very important for elderly people to understand the Dharma. When people reach their twilight years, their physical strength gradually declines. Even the most fragrant and delicious foods cannot be digested. When people get old, their bodies slowly deteriorate. Even the most fragrant and delicious foods that they especially loved eating when young, whether sweet, spicy, sour, or any kind of food, they once thought, oh, this tastes so good. But generally, when people reach their 30s or 40s, basically, according to medical books today, when people reach 55 years old, inside the body, including in the intestines and stomach, the digestive system has beneficial bacteria and harmful bacteria. When they are in a balanced state, the body's various parts have relatively good absorption and digestive abilities. Generally, after 50-something years old, beneficial bacteria gradually lose their living space. At that time, whatever you eat seems to have no good taste and is constantly indigestible. Some people, after 50 or 60 years old, often find that nothing they eat agrees with them. You see many elderly people in hospitals. What's the reason? It's also a state brought on by aging. At that time, the eye faculty deteriorates, vision declines, and the eyes become dim. One simply cannot see distant scenery or small objects. When people reach a certain age, the eye muscles gradually become non-functional. Their focusing ability gradually cannot function. According to modern medicine, people's vision easily deteriorates after age 40. Before age 40, vision should be relatively good, so you cannot complain against heaven and people. When I was young, I could see everything. Now I can't see. Why? Taking a magnifying glass, reading word by word, Om Mani Padme Hum. When I first came to the academy, there was an old lama from Shinlong next door. He practiced very diligently and earnestly. Every morning, consistently year after year, he would get up at that time and recite continuously. Sometimes I would wake up to the sound of his chanting. Every time during tsok offerings and sutra recitations, because his vision was poor, he would hold a big magnifying glass and rely on it constantly for chanting. He has now passed away. Many elderly practitioners also say, everything else is fine, but my vision is poor. I can only see cabbage clearly. Everything else I can't see clearly. Just joking. That's my addition. This is also a state of human aging. The ear faculty deteriorates. Regardless of how loud or soft others speak, one cannot hear clearly. Inside the ears are hair cells that can receive all sounds from outside. For now, I won't explain the methods from the treasury of Abhidharma. In the treasury of Abhidharma, there are explanations of the 5 faculties, material faculties, etc. The explanations of the Sotrantika and Sarvastivada schools are all different. Those who have studied the treasury of Abhidharma all know this. In medicine, they're called hair cells. Generally, after age 55, those receivers gradually decrease. Hearing becomes increasingly poor. This is also a state of aging. Sometimes when we go to hospital ENT departments, there are many elderly people saying, "Doctor, you must find a way to help me hear sounds. You must find a way to help me see clearly. That won't work. This machine is already old. No matter what, it's worn out." We practitioners who have studied these principles should know that our entire machine, composed of the 4 elements, when it reaches a certain point, doesn't work like when we were young. No matter how much we want to restore it, it's impossible. Unless the entire physical body is changed and we're reborn as a second life tulku, then there might be this hope. That was about the deterioration of the ear faculty. The tongue faculty deteriorates. One cannot taste the flavors of food and drink, and speech becomes unclear. This deterioration of the tongue faculty. On the tongue are many taste buds that receive flavors bit by bit. Roughly, an adult has 10,000 taste buds. Gradually, perhaps from eating too much, they gradually wear away. When people reach around 60 years old, the instruments for receiving taste gradually disappear, so eating anything seems to have no taste or feeling. Many elderly people have this experience. In the past, when you were young and in university, everything you ate was especially fragrant. In old age, the other day I cooked a dish and enjoyed it together with another elderly practitioner. I asked, "Is this dish good?" "It's okay. It's okay," I said. "How do you feel about it?" "I can't really feel anything." "It's okay, I guess. When we reach a certain age, it will definitely be like this." When we were studying, buying a piece of candy or eating a meal, it was so fragrant, so joyful, with many sensations. But as people gradually, especially in old age, everything, if there's no sensation at all, there's still a little. If there is, it's also not sensitive or sharp. This is the reason for the deterioration of the tongue faculty. The mental faculty gradually weakens. Consciousness becomes unclear, very forgetful, always drowsy and dull. When a person's mental faculty reaches a certain point, it gradually weakens. Actually, from a medical perspective, the weakening of the mental faculty is related to brain cells. An American biology PhD named Luo Xin said that when a person is just born, they have 14 billion brain cells. Generally, after age 40, brain cells gradually decrease every day. Some sources say 10,000 per day decrease, some say 100,000. Regardless, when people are in their prime around age 20, they have a total of 100 billion brain cells, and especially many, then gradually decrease. Therefore, at age 60, many people have early-stage dementia. Some have dementia after age 80, because at that time, basically the brain nerve cells are already very few. At this time, the memory and wisdom, like when young, are quite difficult to fully restore. But very few exceptional great masters, I truly think their nerve cells should be very vigorous, never decreasing or dying. As I mentioned before, when His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche was 70 years old, 2 years before he passed away, he taught the words of my perfect teacher and the Ratnagotra Vibhaga. His Holiness quoted many scriptural sources from India, Tibet, and Buddhist sutras. At that time, some lay people in the academy and some non-Buddhist leaders listened through radio broadcasts. After each class, they felt amazed. A 70-year-old person can recite so many teachings and scriptural quotations, so magnificent. As I mentioned before, when Master Minling composed the commentary on the 3 vows, when he was over 70, he wrote in the text that although his age was so advanced, his wisdom had not declined. Although his physical body had aged somewhat, his wisdom became increasingly vigorous. Recently, I've seen lectures by some great masters close to 80 years old, including from the root stanzas of the Middle Way and the Way of the Bodhisattva. They recited all the scriptural quotations from many treatises. I see some worldly people in their 70s and 80s basically holding walking sticks, walking with great difficulty. Their speech is also mumbled, forgetting one moment, awakening the next. But through the blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, especially the blessings of Manjushri and Avalokiteshvara, in Buddhist circles, very few exceptional elderly people are truly remarkable. Some time ago, I saw Master Ben Huan at 103 years old. A segment of his lecture was very remarkable. For ordinary worldly people, this would probably be quite difficult. Previously, Rongzom Pandita lived to 119 years old, Master Shuyon to 120 years old. So many great masters, even though now is the degenerate age when human lifespan is 100 years, can manifest their mastery over the 4 elements. I think practitioners should not be greatly affected by the so-called death of brain cells or neural deterioration. The phenomenon is not very severe. Khenpo Depo is recently writing a commentary on the precious treasury of pith instructions. He hasn't referenced any materials, just one book. Apart from this, no other materials. In a retreat in China, he probably just finished writing recently. I think this method of composing treatises is different from others. If we worldly people were to compose a treatise, we would probably need to prepare many materials and definitely reference numerous sources. But many great masters accumulate wisdom throughout their lives and now leave it for others. This is very necessary. Therefore, when relying on great masters, those around them should ask questions and through various methods have them teach and compose treatises. As disciples, this is still very necessary. Previously, around Mifam Rinpoche, many remarkable masters often made requests. Because these masters appear in human form, having such circumstances, they would also compose many treatises. Previously, around His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, there was someone called Daji. I'm especially grateful to him. Many, especially good treatises composed by His Holiness, were requested by Daji at that time. Otherwise, these great masters, when they reach a certain point, leave this world. When they leave this world, although they have much wisdom in their mind streams, there's no time to pour it out. Previously, Gendon Chupel also said when leaving this world, my physical body doesn't matter, but my wisdom is very precious. Those aren't his exact words, but that's the meaning. He said, my physical body, everyone's physical body will leave this world, so it's not very precious. But I have transcendent wisdom that no one has realized. Dying like this, I still feel somewhat regretful. That's the meaning. He left this world at age 49 1949, passing away in 1951. Gendon Choifel was very capable. He didn't compose many treatises, but now it's publicly recognized. Some great masters weren't publicly recognized while alive. Like Mifam Rinpoche and Longchenpa, they weren't very famous while alive. Later, people discovered the wisdom they had revealed was extremely rare for all society and humanity. Only then did they discover this, some while they were alive. Also had countless people come to venerate them or receive their transcendent wisdom. Now let's continue. Where were we? The 2 rows of teeth that were originally in the mouth fall out. One cannot chew hard foods, and speech becomes halting and unclear. Regarding tooth loss, modern medicine explains it's related to saliva. Generally, after age 40, saliva gradually decreases. Without saliva, periodontitis often occurs, and teeth begin to fall out. We ourselves probably can't feel the difference between saliva at age 20 and... Look and see. Don't elderly people have very little saliva? They can't speak well or eat hard things. Body temperature becomes irregular. If clothing is slightly thin, one feels extremely cold. Physical strength decreases more and more, truly unable to bear heavy clothing. Not wearing clothes doesn't work either. Wearing too little feels very cold. Wearing too much feels very heavy. Some elderly people are truly very pitiful. In the future, we should especially care for elderly people. China's Senior Citizens' Day is the double 9th festival, September 9th. How was it celebrated? You all don't even know. When is International Senior Citizens Day? Who knows? That day, a great Khenpo from our academy went to some teachers to speak about the importance of the Tibetan mother tongue. Later, he asked the teachers, when is International Mother Language Day? No one could answer. He was very disappointed later. It's actually February 21st every year. Look, so many people, and now no one can answer. The year I went to India was 1990. At that time, the UN held its 45th International Conference. At this conference, it was decided that October 1st is World Senior Citizens Day. National Day on October 1st is also the holiday for all elderly people internationally, just like June 1st Children's Day, when children wear their most beautiful clothes on National Day October 1st. I hope elderly practitioners will recite Amitabha Buddha well, okay? Looking at the information, you should know. Although they long for sensual pleasures, alas, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Due to the deterioration of bodily energy channels, their endurance and tolerance become extremely weak. They often suffer humiliation from many people, feeling utterly hopeless and generating pointless anguish. Human skin, flesh, and hair all have certain states of aging. Some gradually deteriorate after age 25, others after age 30. Changes in the entire physical body easily appear. As worldly people, we should know that aging is actually a natural law. Due to the disorder of the body's 4 elements, one must also suffer the torment of 100 illnesses and many harmful afflictions. Walking, standing, sitting, lying down, any activity causes breathlessness and feels extremely difficult. Elderly people all have this kind of condition. Doing anything feels very painful. I think many of us should understand this clearly without saying. Now let's tell a story about Milarepa. The following verses and Patrul Rinpoche's explanation, combining the two together, might be easier to understand. I'll recite a verse, then combine it with the commentary below. This Vajra song, Milarepa, once went to North Horse Snow Mountain for practice. On the way, in autumn, he met a young girl, about 15 years old, possessing all the signs of a Dakini. When he asked her for alms, she happily agreed, saying, "Wait at the door of my house, and I'll come back." As a result, when Milarepa went there, the house door was open. When he entered, there was an old woman inside who was extremely unhappy, holding a handful of ashes ready to throw them at Milarepa's face. She said, "You so-called practitioners, in summer you go everywhere begging for butter and milk. In winter you beg for grain. It's also possible you're planning to steal my daughter's and daughter-in-law's jewelry. What are you doing here?" She was about to hit him. At this time, Milarepa very calmly told the old woman, "Don't do this." He then spoke the following Vajra songs, which are also found in the 100,000 songs. Later, all the content he taught her about practice methods was about how she, as a worldly old person, should practice properly. After Milarepa finished reciting all these Vajra songs, the old woman generated faith and especially repented before Milarepa for all the negative actions she had committed before. She also recognized many principles of cause and effect. Right then, she dropped the ashes from her hand to the ground without throwing them at him. Later, We don't know if the young girl came. Afterwards, she should have given some food. This is how the story unfolded. From this, Patrul Rinpoche used part of this content here. Elderly people should also know what kind of state they will be in after getting old. Venerable Milarepa said, "The rising style of pulling out a herding stake, the walking style of stealthily catching small birds, the sitting style of a heavy object falling to the ground. If one possesses these three characteristics, grandmother, your body has declined and your mind is defeated." The commentary explains it this way. When elderly people of advanced age stand up, they cannot immediately rise naturally but must support themselves with both hands on the ground. That posture is like pulling out a wooden stake from hard ground. To pull out a wooden stake from hard ground requires great effort. For many elderly people, standing up is also very difficult, including putting on shoes. At such times I see many elderly people. Young people nearby think, what are they doing? Everyone is happily going out. But they sit there for a long time putting on shoes. Why are you sitting there, including using the toilet, walking? In many aspects, young people don't understand, but there's no choice. When everyone reaches that age, standing up becomes this difficult. When walking, they also bend over and lower their heads. Their feet cannot move quickly up and down. They walk slowly and unsteadily. Indeed, it's just like children tiptoeing to catch small birds. They walk quietly like this. Elderly people walk. I don't need to demonstrate. Actually, we have very good organization here too. We have an elderly class where senior practitioners have their own purification class. This is very good for all elderly people. I once saw the elderly class finishing their session. Everyone's thoughts, intentions, and behaviors were very similar. I think this arrangement is very good. Otherwise, if elderly people were together with many children or young people, many young people might accidentally knock them over. Some children might do it intentionally. Each elderly bodhisattva is very happy, asking, "What did the teacher teach today?" I don't know. I couldn't hear very clearly. I was just sitting there in a daze. That person has already felt that I was beside you at that time. When they walk, it's like this. When sitting down, due to the unbearable pain in all joints of hands and feet, they cannot sit down gently. When the heavy body falls, it's like a heavy object crashing to the ground with a thud. When sitting down, there's really no choice. Some people rely on canes, slowly, but at a certain point, the body's strength has no supporting ability. There's no way. Some young people used to sit down like this too. When I was teaching the words of my perfect teacher, it was in 2004, little Sherab Tso. At that time when I was teaching this, that day when she sat down, she went thud and sat down. My entire throne started shaking. I mentioned it in class at the time. When Sherab Tso sat down, she went thud like an elderly person. But now she's probably older and wouldn't do this anymore, though she's still okay. Back in 2004, when you have time to listen to the MP3, that sound should be in there. Looking at how she seemed to sit, I didn't notice it today. Generally, elderly people sit like that, but maybe the older you get, the less you need to sit down like this, right? When elderly people sit down, it's also like this. The verse says, "Skin gathers into wrinkles on the outside, blood and flesh diminish inside, showing bumps and hollows. Confused, mute, blind, and deaf in perception. If one possesses these three conditions, grandmother manifests as wrathful mother." Here it also describes how elderly people's flesh is almost depleted. Skin gathers together. According to current explanations, the flesh between bones and skin gradually dries up, and the facial structure begins to protrude. Almost every elderly person's body and face is crisscrossed with valleys and covered with wrinkles. The reduction of blood and flesh inside makes the bone joints completely exposed. Jaw bones and joint heads become prominently visible on the outside. This is inevitable because the flesh in between is gone. Behind the bones, there's only skin, which is very obvious. So many elderly people see their faces full of wrinkles and many unattractive features. They feel especially distressed. There's nothing to be distressed about. In autumn, no matter how much you water them, flowers will gradually wither. Same principle. Nowadays, many worldly people undergo various cosmetic surgeries. These are all extremely foolish behaviors. I once saw an elderly woman over 60 who insisted on having breast surgery, spending a lot of money on it. Many doctors advised her not to do it, but she wouldn't listen. Later, when news reporters asked why she did this, she said, "Everyone loves beauty. I love beauty too. I am human after all." Just joking. The last part I added. People who have studied Buddhist logic are different. There was someone over 80 who said, I don't have any other problems. I exercise regularly and am in good health, but I have too many wrinkles on my face. Other people find it very uncomfortable to look at, so I must have surgery. I also saw in 2007 someone called Aunt Chen from Guangzhou, who had facial plastic surgery and other procedures, spending 250,000 yuan. But she only told her family it cost 6,000 yuan. The surgery was unsuccessful, and she passed away. There was also someone in 2008, a 65-year-old from Nanjing, who also had surgery. What was the reason for her surgery? She said, when my husband and I go out together because he dyed his hair successfully, people think he looks very young. When I go out with him, because I have too many wrinkles on my face, I feel very awkward inside. It doesn't feel right. So this time I must have it done. Many doctors saw that the 65-year-old lady's body couldn't handle it, lacking endurance. Later, she really insisted on doing it no matter what. Worldly people are truly extremely foolish. You don't understand the conditions of birth, aging, sickness, and death. Many meaningless things, no matter how much you do, won't work in the end. I used to know a very wealthy elderly person. The many lay practitioners around her often said, our so-and-so looks younger and more beautiful as she ages. She was particularly happy about this. But in reality, everyone could see she was experiencing much suffering. So these are all foolish behaviors. As practitioners, we should truly understand these principles from the heart. Birth, aging, sickness, and death appear before everyone. Once they appear, there's nothing special about it. As the Sutra of the Right Mindfulness of Dharma also says, when people are oppressed by old age, their bodies weaken and minds deteriorate. Hunched over, walking with a staff, this suffering is indescribable. When people are tormented by aging, both body and mind completely change. You walk with a cane. This is a natural law. This kind of suffering appears in everyone's life. As we just discussed, in modern medicine, when our 5 sense faculties gradually deteriorate, various external sufferings appear. At this time, if we have some Buddhist practices, reciting Amitabha Buddha's name, properly practicing virtuous deeds, that would be very good. At that time, liking beauty treatments probably won't work. Young people should understand this. Now, 1/4 of those having cosmetic surgery are elderly people, so some practitioners should probably deeply recognize and understand this aspect. Here it also describes how, at this time, mental faculties decline. They reach a state of being like the confused, mute, blind, and deaf. The mind is always in a confused and muddled state. As Milarepa just said, wearing heavy, tattered clothes, eating cold, murky food, sleeping on 4 layers of skin mats. If one possesses these 3 conditions, one is trampled by humans and dogs like a realized being. Below it describes how the body's strength completely deteriorates. The desire to dress up and beautify oneself is gone, but most people nowadays haven't lost this yet. Many elderly people, because they don't know, still think that dressing up more would make them look good. Generally speaking, when people reach that point, they don't have this interest anymore. That's how it should be. Today I met 2 classmates from middle school, and we talked about middle school times. I said, well, we're all old now. One guy who used to love joking around, he's still like that now. His nature hasn't changed. He said, are we old or not? You used to love dressing up too. I said, how did I love dressing up? You loved dressing up. You used to look in the mirror during class. I said, impossible, I'm not a little girl. We argued for a long time, but I absolutely can't remember. It probably didn't happen, but it's hard to say. Sorry about that. But now after class, I don't have such thoughts anymore. They've disappeared. His name is Nyingma. He used to make everyone laugh by saying things during class that made everyone laugh. So the teacher really disliked him. His nature still hasn't changed. Today when we ate together, he kept talking about this and that. The clothes they wear are always worn out and heavy. The food they eat is also leftovers, plus the tongue's function weakens, so all food feels cold and dirty. Because when people get old, truly everything seems to have no taste, no feeling. The body is especially heavy, and they can't feel comfortable no matter what. Even with supports all around, they often can't get up from bed. Some elderly people might pull ropes or use many things nearby to rely on when standing up. Actually, some people's care for the elderly isn't very thorough. I hope our young people can help elderly people around us whose physical condition can't compare to ours, even if it's just building convenient stairs or providing many conveniences when they use the bathroom. Also, for getting up and many other aspects, elderly people's bodies, especially those of advanced age, also feel very lost in their hearts. Sometimes when I visit nursing homes, I find them quite good indeed. If you find the suffering of old age somewhat difficult and hard to practice, go to some elderly people's side. Observe where the elderly sleep and their eating conditions. After seeing these, one day I too will become like this, you can actually feel it yourself. So this practice becomes very easy. We should be able to say this. When a person reaches this time, the outer illusory body becomes old and decrepit. The inner consciousness completely deteriorates. How painful this must be. Extremely painful. The former beauty and handsome appearance have long disappeared without a trace. The skin is covered with wrinkles, clearly manifesting the appearance of an ugly, wrathful mother. Looking at some elderly people, they weren't like this when they were young. They themselves also say, "When I was young, I was especially beautiful. But now, no matter what they say, on their face you can't find any trace at all. Now even speaking is stammering, walking is also stumbling." But when they were young before, it wasn't like this at all. So understanding the natural laws of human life is very important. Previously in the Sutra on the 8 Teachers, it says, when contemplating human aging, 100 diseases arise simultaneously. 100 diseases, when a person reaches old age, they appear simultaneously. So their spirit is also poor, their heart is also in pain. At this time, if there are people beside them to help, they are indeed very grateful. Therefore, if we have the ability, I suggest creating some convenient methods for elderly people in various aspects. This is very important. I heard that here with us, the Dharma teachers in the elderly class are very compassionate. They often understand what they think and do what they're told. We also hope that those who care for the elderly have better tempers, stronger patience, and heavier compassion. These old bodhisattvas in this world, although we say long dwelling in the world, lasting forever, I heard that the double ninth festival is on September 9th precisely because of a long dwelling in the world, lasting forever. For this kind of number or sound to express happy holidays for the elderly, it's actually like this. But no matter how long they live, helping them in all aspects is very important. They also don't have many days left living in this world. They should prepare early themselves, practice transference of consciousness, and prepare well for the next life. Many elderly people in the world now don't have this concept. Every day they live in confusion, quarreling with family, complaining about heaven and blaming others. My son doesn't care for me anymore. My daughter-in-law has a bad attitude. Every day saying these boring things, living their days, very painful. These are all practice. If you can truly think it through, it's a very profound kind of Dharma. The process of worldly people, actually, if we can truly practice human youth, middle age or old age, including the process of death, for us is very good practice. So-called practice. You must think through each principle well. Finally, in your own heart, you truly recognize many principles of the world. No knowledge can overthrow your thoughts. This is very important. Here it also says, even if crowds humiliate him in every way, stepping over his head back and forth, he can no longer stand up. Just like a realized yogini or yogi who has no distinction between pure and impure. Some elderly people, if you insult them nearby or step over them, if it were a young person, if you stepped over their head, they would definitely say, "What are you doing? Don't you have eyes? Why are you stepping over my head?" But when people get old, especially toward the end, they have no discriminating thoughts of good or bad. Actually, before reaching that point, like the example I just gave of 60-something elderly men and women, they seem to go crazy, not knowing their own state of death or aging. At that time, one should recognize that when people get old, you cannot overturn this law through other means. The treatise on the foundation for yoga practitioners explains aging in 5 aspects. First is prime appearance. A person's spirit, body, and complexion will all change. This is irresistible. There's no way to overturn it. Second is physical strength. Though you previously had abundant energy, when people get old, it will certainly decline. Third is the decline of all faculties. Your eye faculty, ear faculty, nose faculty, all faculties will gradually decline. Fourth is enjoyment of objects. Your ability to enjoy objects is gone. Previously, you could hear sounds without problem, see any form or enjoy any pleasures without problem. When people get old, you have insufficient mental strength. It doesn't work. Fifth is lifespan. The measure of human life will also decrease. When people reach a certain age, it cannot be resisted, except for a very few great masters and those with spiritual attainment. So we should understand these principles. Actually, some old practitioners, there was once a Chan master Ryokan who practiced especially well. He had a nephew outside who lived dissolutely and did many bad things. Others requested the master to help him if possible. He later agreed to go there. That bad child also had great faith in his uncle. After staying there one night when he was about to leave, he said, "Tie my shoelaces. You see I'm old, my hands tremble terribly, I can't do it." Then that child helped him tie his shoelaces. Afterward, through this gesture, he deeply felt that people will also grow old. Later, he also asked him to cherish time well. After he returned, all his bad habits were completely changed. So sometimes some old bodhisattvas, old masters, old practitioners, their little behaviors also inspire many people. Many elderly people, even when they return and interact with worldly people, should liberate others with the appearance of an aging wrathful mother or wrathful sage. You shouldn't already have a wrathful appearance and then add anger on top of it, becoming even more wrathful. Wow, that would look even worse. You should help others with a smiling attitude in wrathful form. Do you understand the meaning within this? Do you understand my meaning? Old bodhisattvas should also not frequently generate anger toward people around them. Because I'm an elderly person, you must help me. You. Elderly people's temper isn't very good. You must pay attention. Because many states of elderly people, people who practiced very well before, toward the end somewhat, people will all, as we mentioned before, change. So some people say, don't provoke him, he has dementia, don't bother, and they leave. He keeps going on endlessly, chattering there, so they just ignore him. So you should understand yourself that you've already grown old. Old practitioners should have other methods of liberating beings. Because they really cannot bear this suffering of aging, many elderly people hope to die quickly. But actually all elderly people are also very afraid of facing death. Such suffering of old age is actually equivalent to the suffering of beings in lower realms without much difference. In summary, Mypham Rinpoche also said before that birth, aging, sickness and death are natural laws that no one can transcend. In The Just King, it says, "Birth, aging, sickness, and death are natural laws that every sentient being must face. If you want to transcend them, there's no way. When people get old, you must try every means. I want to become young again. As an 80-year-old, I must become 40 years younger. I want to live a very beautiful life again. It can't be done. There's no way to transcend it." Sakya Pandita also said, "If people fear aging and hope for longevity, this is foolish behavior, a fool's wrong thinking." It's explained very clearly. People shouldn't have too much ignorance. Originally, we're all in samsara, having done many ignorant and foolish actions. That's already enough. After people get old, no matter how much you fear aging, it's unnecessary. What's there to be afraid of? You should be like some practitioners in Tibet now. "Oh, now I can be old. How happy." You should face it this way. There's also no need to hope for longevity at a certain time. "Doctor, don't let me die. You must find a way to let me live to 100. This also can't be done. Doctors aren't omnipotent. In the end, everyone might say it verbally, but actually look within yourself to see if you have any realization. When you have realization, you truly not only must practice, but in actual actions you'll also be able to do it.
Sonam dei tamse rupaya tanani de dhamma pasi tirgana jirano chupai chupun sonen dravadvasya
Bangarangara Badna Sadarda Bangarangara Badna Sadarda Bangarangara Badna Sadarda